Many average Overwatch players ask the question, what truly separates me from a Grandmaster player? See, Grandmaster players have certain habits, things they do or don't do in each and every game that you need to learn from. That being said, I'm going to break down the top 10 things that Grandmasters do that can help you understand the difference between an average Overwatch player and a Grandmaster one, so that you can start taking steps to bridge that gap. All that being said, let's just jump right into it, shall we? Now, kicking it off with point number 1 on our list, we're going to talk about the aggressive playstyle. Grandmaster players tend to have the aggressive playstyle almost across the board for a number of reasons. The thing about the aggressive playstyle versus the passive one is, well, yes, the passive playstyle can work in a number of different situations. I know this is probably apparent to everyone, but the fact of the matter is, even if a passive playstyle is actually effective, it's not really contributing that much to each and every game. To climb in a ranked environment, you really need to be carrying games, not just existing or doing only your job. On top of that, an aggressive playstyle can allow you to have more solo carry plays, but even more than that, it can allow you to learn your limits. Grandmaster players tend to be confident. They tend to know exactly when they can go for certain plays, and the way that they build up that confidence is by pushing the bounds of aggressiveness, learning exactly when they shouldn't be aggressive, and really learning that line is something that you only learn if you have a predominantly aggressive playstyle going forward. If you're playing predominantly passive, you're never going to know exactly how aggressive you can be, how much you could stretch your impact, and that's a really big thing that Grandmaster players do that the average player might not. Now, moving on to point number 2, the thing that really separates Grandmaster players from the average Overwatch player is learning from mistakes. Grandmaster players can easily self-evaluate, and this is something that you have to learn. Self-evaluating is a skill. It's not something you could do automatically. Essentially, what Grandmasters do over time is they will self-correct their own mistakes and slowly adjust. They want to improve. They want to win every single game they play in. And in order to do that, they need to understand when they make a mistake, they need to be realistic with themselves, and they need to self-evaluate. They say, oh, I probably shouldn't have taken that flank. Oh, this was too aggressive. This was too aggressive. Sometimes you watch some streamers and they really call themselves out because what they're doing here is they're self-evaluating their own skill level. They're self-evaluating their own mistakes. And what can they do to actually overcome that? Maybe their mechanics were off that day. Maybe they weren't in the proper positioning, or there was an interaction they didn't understand. If you want to get better and improve, fixing your mistakes just like Grandmaster players, then you really need to start watching your own VODs. Watching your own VODs is the best way to learn how to think critically about your own gameplay, correctly assess when you made a mistake, and look to ways where you could have improved or you could have gotten even more value. Something that I really find in the Grandmaster rank in particular is Grandmaster players don't really blame their team as much as your average player in Overwatch does. They know when they're going up against a top 500 player or someone incredibly talented, they know that that player is going to dominate them unless they are at their top of their game. Now, moving on to point number 3, Grandmaster players will carry when they have to, but then they'll just do their job when they don't. I talked about before about the aggressive playstyle, but there will be some games where you really don't have to go above and beyond. All you have to do is put in the expected amount of pressure. You're not doing anything insane, you're not carrying, and that's good enough. If your team is synergistic, your team has cohesion, you're playing well together, you just rinse and repeat proper strategies, proper ult combinations. This is what a Grandmaster will do. They will just do their job. Now, there will be some games, maybe the Grandmaster player will get placed with a whole bunch of Masters players instead of the top 500 players or other Grandmasters. They know that they have to go above and beyond, because if they don't, they're probably not going to win. The thing that you should really take from this and put it into your games is, if you realize that your team is really anti-synergistic, your team is not really doing their job, people are really not filling in the gaps that they need to have a cohesive team, you need to play your best character. You need to swap to whatever character you can find the most impact on aggressively, and you need to do that and just pop off. You're not going to be able to carry an unsynergistic team with Mercy. You're not going to be able to carry a really passive team with something like Orisa. Swap to characters that can emphasize being aggressive, swap to characters that you are the best at, and try to make solo plays, because that's the only way that you can carry yourself out of these games, just like a Grandmaster player would. Now, moving on to point number 4, Grandmaster players quickly learn who to respect and who you can't respect and what you can get away with. We talked about pushing the aggressive playstyle, but there are some characters that you run into as you get to the higher ranks that will deserve your respect, and you need to give them appropriate respect. Something like a Widowmaker. If you go up against any Grandmaster top 500 Widowmaker, you know to respect her sightlines. That's something that you've learned through dying over and over again to really insane Widows who basically will always hit the shot if you give them the shot. But what you should really take from this specifically when trying to play your games is, for the vast majority of ranks, all the way up to probably the Masters rank, if you're confident in your own mechanics and playmaking ability, don't give anyone respect inherently. Most of the players don't deserve respect, and until they prove to you that you should respect them, you should just try to to be as aggressive, find as much impact as possible. Once they shut you down, you could reel that back, but if you want to just have a game where you just singularly dominate that game, the only way to do it is by presenting that aggressive strategy, by making the enemy punish you. They have to show that they can punish you. It's like a litmus test. If they could punish you for being aggressive and making your plays, then maybe they have a chance at winning the game. But if they can't stop you at all, you're just gonna farm them over and over again. And don't give them that respect for free. Don't give them that value for free. Make them earn it. Now, before we move on, real quick, I'm going to tell you about GameLeap.com. We're the #1 educational website anywhere. Do yourself a favor and come check us out. You won't regret it. Now, moving on to point number 5 on the list. This is a really big one for the vast majority of players, and this is something that you need to understand. Grandmaster players play more than you. If you're just an average player, I can guarantee you that your average Grandmaster player will play so much more than you. Grandmaster players usually top over 30 hours a week, and there's going to be a point that I make later on about scrims and stuff like that. Grandmaster players could be playing way more than that. Some Grandmaster players play Overwatch like a full-time job. And the thing is, if you're already in Grandmaster, if you just want to hold Grandmaster, you don't have to play the full amount of time. Not dropping from a rank is a lot easier than climbing to it. But for the players that want to climb to Grandmaster, and most of the players that do want to climb even further, top 500, they want to enter in the top 100 range, you know, they want to climb the path to pro, they are grinding the game. They're putting so many hours. That's something that you really need to understand, is if you want to get all the way up to the highest ranks of Overwatch, you want to get past Masters, you want to get to Overwatch top 500, you're in a competition with everyone who's taking this game seriously. And if you want to beat them and you're only putting 10 hours a week in when they're putting 40, it's not going to happen. It's not realistic. You're setting yourself up to fail. Honestly, many of the players at the highest level will play tons of the game. And if you want to perform, if you want to play at the higher levels, you need to develop a good amount of time to the game. Even with all the tips and tricks that we give you at GameLeap, nothing is going to replace the hours and hours that these players take tips, tricks, and VOD reviews, and they grind the game 10 times more than you. Now, moving on to tip number 6, this is the competitive mindset. And this is a really important thing that you need to understand about players in Grandmaster. They always want to win. So here's something that will typically happen in your average game. Someone will say something, you know, offhanded. They'll say swap off Genji. They'll say this. They'll say that. Someone might even say something that's a valid criticism of your play, but maybe you get really mad about it and it affects your performance. Or maybe you'll start flaming someone else because you think they're not playing well. Your average Grandmaster player will really take in what people are saying. They'll ignore what they don't need to listen to, but they're not going to tilt. They're not going to flame. They're still going to try their hardest regardless of the attitudes of the people on their team. At the end of the day, they want to win over everything. They can't afford to just throw away games because someone pissed them off. They just can't do that. They want to win every single game and they'll fight for every win. They'll do what they can to win every single game. And then on top of this competitive mindset, many will play in scrims and in the tier 3. I would suggest if you're Masters and above and you want to climb higher than that, you definitely need to start playing in the tier 3 scene or playing on teams, competing in OD, playing against better players. This will help expedite your process. You're going to be learning how to play Overwatch the way it should be played. You're going to be putting more time into the game. You're going to be learning proper comms and teamwork and synergy, and it's going to improve you as a player. I could tell you personally, I didn't really improve as a player until I started playing scrims consistently. This was back a long time ago, back in season 4. I started playing scrims consistently and I was really improving myself as a player. I made some lifelong friends. It was a really good process, but it made me a better player. That's the competitive mindset. Even if you're in a lower rank, I still would suggest you do it if this is something that you want to take seriously. The competitive mindset is something that you really need to get in. You want to play the game because you enjoy the game, but you also play to win. And that's what that competitive mindset is. Each and every game, you're playing to win. You're not going to allow other factors like ego or tilt or anything like that to affect you, because winning is more important than that. Now, moving on to point number 7, this is never stop improving their mechanics or understanding. So some people think that Grandmaster is like the apex or the epitome. It's like you get there and then you're fine. You get there and you just want to stop. You get there and you want to quit. But most of the time when you get to Grandmaster, that's just the start of it. You realize once you get there just how much better the players are than you that are in Grandmaster. The difference between a Grandmaster player, let's say someone like 4K, and the difference between that player and someone who's 4,300, in my opinion, is almost just as wide as Diamond to Grandmaster. That is how insane that gap is. It's because the upper tier players, they're always improving. They're improving constantly, and it's like an exponential improvement. They're just playing in scrims, they're playing against better players, they're grinding and grinding the game. So when you get to Grandmaster and you start playing against these insane players, you want to beat them. You want to go even further beyond, and that's something that Grandmaster players always look to do. Improving your mechanics mechanics and understanding the game never stops. It doesn't stop when you get Grandmaster. It doesn't stop when you get top 500. There's always more shots you can hit. There's always more things you can know. If you think that once you get to Grandmasters, all of a sudden your mechanics are fine enough, your understanding of the game is fine enough, that's not true. Grandmaster players will seek even more knowledge and even more improvement. And that's why they constantly stay competitive in Overwatch, because honestly, the average skill of the players in the game is constantly improving at a certain rate. If you don't surpass that rate, then you'll eventually fall out of the ranks that you earn, because other people are also working. People in Masters, people in Diamond, these people are working, and if you do not put as much effort as them, you're going to be the one that drops down to Masters and Diamond, and they're going to be the ones that take your spot. Now moving on to point number 8, this is kind of what I was talking about with the previous tip, but it even furthers the point, is Grandmaster players are just not satisfied with Grandmaster. Once you get to Grandmaster, it's not enough. It's like, that is something that even opens you up to even more. And it's like, I know that the vast majority of the players that watch this channel, they think, I just want to get to Grandmaster. Or they say, I just want to get to Diamond. Or I just want to get to Masters. When I first picked up this game, I was extremely low rank, right? I was in almost silver. I spent quite a bit of time in gold. I went to plat, and I spent an insane amount of time in plat. And I can remember distinctly, back in season 2 or season 3, how much I wanted to get Diamond, and I thought I will do anything to get Diamond, and once I get it, I'm done. Guess what? I got Diamond, and then I wanted Masters, and I put in tons of hours into the game, and I can't tell you how bad I wanted Masters. And I told myself when I got to Masters, I would be there, I'd be done, I'd be good, I'd be happy. I got to Masters, and guess what? It wasn't enough. I wanted Grandmaster, and then Grandmaster, and guess what? It wasn't enough, and I'm still on the climb to make it to even higher peaks, and it never ends. And that's the way it is for every Grandmaster player. When you put all this time and effort into something that you're already good at, you just want even more, and that's the way that it is. If you climb all the way to Grandmaster, you won't be satisfied. The only thing that it will do is to prove to yourself that you can go even further. If you get Grandmaster, you prove yourself that you can compete with the best of the best, and that only inspires you to grind even further. And that's one of the difference between people at lower ranks, is maybe you're not really excited to grind the game. Maybe you feel like you have no impact over the game, but I promise you, when you start hitting these peaks, you'll only want more. You'll only prove to yourself that you can go even further, and that's just how the game is. And then the game hooked you, and then you're an addict for life. Now moving on to point number 9 on the list, this is Grandmaster players play with the meta. They understand how to play the meta, or they understand how to play characters that aren't in the meta, but specifically work against the meta. So this is something that's really important. If you want to climb to the highest tier, when you get to the highest tier, players are going to be playing meta. And if you're a Torb or Genji one trick, it's going to be really hard for you. If I'm being frank, it's just going to be extremely hard. But you'll find usually 2 types of Grandmaster players, and it's either players that will play the meta, they will play whatever is the best character, and they'll just be better at that character than other people. They'll do something that sets themselves apart. Maybe the meta is Rhine Diva, and they're Diva, and they just get better Diva bombs, they eat more ultimates, they have more impactful peeling, all these things than the other divas, and that's what separates them. Or maybe they will play a completely different hero, and they'll do something that specifically is strong against whatever is the meta. Maybe Doomfist isn't the best character in the meta, but because of their individual skill, their knowledge of how to play it into meta characters, they could still get value. And that's something that, even if they're not playing meta, Grandmaster players really think about the meta. And that's something that, as you start climbing up through Diamond into Masters to Grandmaster, the meta is going to be more and more important, and you need to start understanding, why is the meta played? What is strong about the meta? What can I do about it when people play the meta? This is where the game starts to become way more organized, because at the lower ranks, frankly, it's kind of like you can play whatever you want and get away with it. At the higher ranks, when you get to Grandmaster and above, if the enemy plays a certain strategy, they can completely shut off a ton of the heroes in the game, to where you are kind of forced onto select number of heroes. You can't just play every single hero if the enemy is playing the meta correctly. Now moving to number 10 on our list, the final thing that really separates Grandmaster players from your average Overwatch player is proper hardware. I know that this one's a really simple one. This is a really simple tip, but I need to really emphasize it here. If you could find one thing that kind of connects everyone who's in Grandmaster and above, what is the thing that they all have in common more than just about anything? And it's probably a 144 hertz monitor. It's probably a nice mouse that they like and they're comfortable with. It's probably a decent computer that can run the game at least 144 frames per second. You really need the proper tools to compete at the highest level. And I know that it's possible to climb to the highest ranks even on terrible hardware, but you're just making it harder on yourself. If you want to improve the fastest rate, if you want to climb the best, if you want to compete, have the highest reaction time, you want to have the proper tools. You want to be on that 144 hertz monitor or more. You want to be on that good keyboard, good mouse, good computer, all these things. Proper tools, that's how you get the job done. You don't want to be trying to bat with a wiffle ball bat. You want to be having that Louisville Slugger wooden bat, you know, or a metal bat or whatever. I don't know baseball. I don't know why I'm making a baseball analogy, but you really get what I'm saying here. And I hope that these 10 specific points really helped you understand some of the things that Grandmaster players feel and go through as opposed to the average Overwatch player. And some of the things that if you want to become a Grandmaster player, these are the things that you need to start incorporating into your game. Every single one of these things, if you start adapting it, you start taking personal responsibility in your own play, and you start taking on that competitive mindset, you will climb to Grandmaster. I believe in you. Anyways, if you want to learn more tips and tricks about how to climb straight to Grandmaster, definitely come check out GameLeap.com. We have in-depth Grandmaster VOD reviews over every single character in the game. So if you want to get yourself into the Grandmaster mindset, do yourself a favor, come check us out. You won't regret it. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. I hope this guide has been extremely helpful for you. If you have any questions, please leave in the comments down below. Also, if you have any video guides that you want me to make, just let me know. I would love to make them. Get right on that. But for now, that's all we got. See you next time.